You are not allowed to know what is going on anywhere in the world but the United States, practice anything but Christianity, or bash your president and his policies. What would you do if you were forced by your government to abide by these rules? You would be livid, wouldn't you? Well, that is what the people of China experience every day. Communism is something that has always interested me, and ever since I found out my grandfather escaped Ukraine under communist ruling, I have always wanted to know more about it, especially censorship. China, one of the last remaining countries that practice communism, enforces restrictions on what their people are exposed to. After speaking with my father about his father's experiences and doing research on China's restrictions, I've gained a plethora of knowledge about this topic. In my speech, I plan to inform you about China and its censorship on different subjects. These subjects include the internet, religion, and media. To begin, the people of China are prohibited from viewing or reading certain material of the internet. One of the biggest media outlets is censored by China's government. China dictates what websites the public is allowed to visit. The Great Firewall refers to the censorship program China has implemented. Websites like Facebook, Twitter, and the New York Times are all off limits. Not only does China ban sites like Facebook and Twitter, but the government regulates and censors news that is published. China's government has techniques for what they censor. For example, experts say it includes technical methods like bandwidth throttling, keyboard filtering, as well as a wholesale blocking of access to websites. Some places have taken internet censorship even further. According to Christopher Beam, author of Behind China's Cyber Curtain, the government has taken the nuclear option and turned the internet off altogether in a county of Tibet. Censorship and restriction of the internet is just one of the examples of China's censorship policy. Next, one of the amendments of our Constitution is the freedom of religion. In the United States, anyone can freely practice religion they want to. Unfortunately, this is not the case in China due to censorship. There are only 5 religions that were officially recognized and protected by the Chinese government when China was first formed. This was how the government censored religion until 1978 when the open door policy was enacted. China's progression of becoming more tolerant of religions doesn't stop the government from finding ways to censor. China allows their people to practice their own religion, but the government tries to administer almost every aspect of religious activities in order to maintain control over religious bodies, persons, and activities. The religious group Falun Gong is a large religious group that has experienced China's censorship. According to Matthew Forney of Time magazine, police sentenced more than 10,000 followers to labor camps, and Falun Gong's exiled leaders say they have evidence that more than 225 people died of abuse in custody. China's censorship of religion is shown when one attempts to practice a certain religion, like Falun Gong. Lastly, the media and journalism in particular are some of the most monitored and censored publications in China. Unlike the United States, China does not have the right of freedom of the press. What is reported in China is extremely regulated. In fact, Reporters Without Borders ranked China 173 out of 179 countries in its 2013 Worldwide Index of Press Freedom. Certain material is restricted from the news if the government doesn't approve with the content. For example, authorities are more likely to ban unfavorable reports about the country. Besides censorship of the content of media, the reporters of these banned reports face a sort of censorship too. According to Reporters Without Borders, journalists and activists who overstep boundaries can also face prison. As of February 2014, 30 journalists and 70 bloggers, online journalists, or cyber descendants are imprisoned. This report and statistics show just how extreme the censorship of media is in China. As you now can see, censorship in China is a major characteristic of the country that is administered on many subjects. The government is able to censor what is shown on the internet, how the public practices religion, and what is reported in China's media. Even though China is one of the few countries left that still practice communism, the government still manages to maintain a strict enforcement of censorship of a variety of materials. So, the next time you're going through your Twitter timeline or your Facebook feed, imagine not being able to. not because they aren't invented or aren't around, but because you are not allowed to. That is what the people of China experience daily due to their government's harsh censorship policies.